You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning, and hello, kits and cubs, and welcome to Season 3 and episode number 194 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Today, recording day is Friday, August 25th, 2023, and right now it's a little wet here at the Beaver Lodge, I must say. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver Ray, and with me as always is my dear friend, Mr. Grizzly, with a jaunty chapeau, I see. Of course, a big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. We have a Friday morning bite for you, but before we do anything else, let's do the most important thing we do here every day at the Beaver Lodge, which is say hello to Mr. Grizzly and ask, how's your mental health doing? And nice earphones.
Oh, thanks. Good morning, Mr. Beaver.
Not your shirt.
That's what I was going for. Earbuds to match the shirt. I thought I'd just play around a little bit this morning. Well, and we did not coordinate. You're wearing yellow and white. I'm wearing yellow and blue.
It looks yellow. It's actually supposed to be green, but yeah, it's coming off as
it looks
quite
yellow in the picture. Anyway, I'm wearing my jaunty chapeau this morning because I nicked my dome 3 or 4 times shaving last night. So I've got like little red spots. Nobody needs to see that. No one wants to see that. Mental health wise, I think I'm pretty good this morning. Had a nice evening. I think I'm pretty good this evening actually. Yeah. Got some work accomplished. Got a few things done. Feeling fulfilled. Yes.
Feeling groovy. I'm doing well. I'm a little sore. Paul looks like a train conductor. Indeed. I'm a little sore. I've been playing a lot of tennis. I played that tournament on the weekend, which I said was a bit like rodeo tennis, and it was. We got rained out Friday, so I had to play 2 matches on the Saturday. I did better than I thought I would do, to be totally honest. I actually won about 6 games throughout the entire tournament, which was really, I almost came back and won a set. Actually, I was down 5-1 at one point, and I was 1 point away from 5-5. So that was it was good. But on the last match, teamed me up with some cute young thing from university, tall and lanky, shows up like with 3 tennis rackets in his bag.
Handed you your butt, did he?
Looks like he's been playing. Yeah. Yeah, looks like he's been playing all his life. It was like the third match is supposed to be the easiest one. I'm running all over the place. I came close to getting one game, but I did not. But after the match, he shook my hand and said he would be happy to play with me at any time. So I got respect.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then I've played a few times since, and I played this person I hadn't played before, where it took us almost an hour and 45 minutes to get through a match, like not a full match, but a pro set up to 8. We finished 8-8, and then we had to go into a tie break, which ended 10-8. I was on the losing end of it. Yeah. But it was the most fun I've ever had playing tennis. Every single point just lasted and lasted and lasted. It's almost like we have the exact same game. It was like playing myself. It's really weird. But I've been I've been playing a lot. So I've yesterday when I went to the chiropractor for the adjustment, oh boy, did I need that. And
Feeling it,
my
were you?
knees are a little, yeah, and I'm feeling it yesterday when I played. I was like, oh man, I've got to be able to hit everything right from the baseline and just serve like crazy because I'm not running very fast or very far today. It's like, ooh, you need to find your D game to play this today. But yeah, it went very well. And other great and wonderful news for your Queen Beaver happened yesterday, Mr. Grizzly. I'm not sure if you saw
What's
it,
that?
but I told everyone I submitted something for an audition a couple of weeks ago. Now, normally we find out really soon, like we find out about 2-3 days. But this one, we got a message sent to us saying, okay, I know you haven't heard anything yet. You're probably wondering. We have some callbacks. Callbacks are when they have like 2 or 3 people that they can't decide, so they have them come back and audition again to give them more stuff. And sometimes they let people know beforehand, those who did get cast, and sometimes they let everybody know at the same time. So they didn't let anybody know before. So we were waiting and waiting and waiting. And we waited like a whole other
Right.
week. I was like, okay, this is abnormally long. What's going on? And then 2 days ago, it came in the mailbox, and I wasn't allowed to say anything, but the tickets went on sale yesterday afternoon, so now I can. So, Mr. Grizzly, if you would put it up.
Madeline the Musical.
I have been Madeline the
Madeline, sorry.
Musical. Yes, I have been cast as Lord Cuckoo Face.
I don't know what that is, but good on you.
Various roles, the Spanish ambassador and whatnot. Lord Cuckoo Face is like the benevolent lord who, I guess, owns the place where all the girls live, or something. But yeah, it's a world premiere. It's a musical that's written right here in Kingston.
Cool.
And yeah. Yay. And so it's unfortunately only 2 days, 13th and 14th, 3 shows. But it's at the big theater at the Grand in Kingston. So the biggest stage in the city, most professional stage in the city, which I've only got a chance to perform on once. So this will be a second time. I'm so excited.
Awesome. Well done, sir. Well done.
And plus, it's a bit back to my roots. I haven't done a musical in a long time. And when I started acting 40-something years ago, I started in children's theater. So this is going to be working with kids and performing, for full families, and oh my God, it's so much fun. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So yeah, that's the good news. So everybody that was pulling for me, thank you so much. Yeah, your good vibes worked. And yes, Lord Cuckoo Face.
Lord Cuckoo Face. Okay, I'll try and remember that for the future. That'll be your nickname, I guess.
Yes.
I just noticed.
All right.
There's something here that you might find interesting. If you're looking for merch, it's not our merch, but it's merch, and you may be interested in if you need a new mug to take your shots out of.
I want to have, I'm hoping that we can. I have to ask if you'd be up for it, but see if DaCosta would take those things, the mugshots, for all 19 of them, and then put a little frame around them, call them like Eager Beaver collectibles, corruption trading cards. Collect all 19.
Yeah. We won't actually sell them, like just as a gag.
No, but it's like, this is what he should have used for his first NFT gamble. Not these AI pictures of him in a spacesuit or whatever like this. This is where the money is, baby. Well, this is what you're going to be
he's
famous
already
for.
Starting to fundraise off this grift. Take a look.
Oh, of course.
Trump, make America great again, 2024. A personal note from President Donald J. Trump. Today, at the notoriously violent jail in Fulton County, Georgia, I was arrested despite having committed no crime. The American people know what's going on. What has taken place is a travesty of justice and election interference. The left wants to intimidate you out of voting for a political outsider who put the American people first. But today, I walked into the lion's den with one simple message on behalf of our entire movement. I will never surrender our mission to save America. If you are doing poorly due to the sinister people in control of our country right now, don't even think about donating. But if you can, please make a contribution to evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House and save America during this dark chapter in our nation's history. Thank you, and God bless Donald J. Trump. And then his donation tabs started at $24, $47, $100, $250, $500, $1,000, and $3,300.
Some of those numbers are rather
47?
3,300? That 3,000, not 3,500, not from 500 to 1,000 to 1,500 or 1,000 to 2,000, but 3,000.
Very strange, right?
Super random.
Well, what would you expect from him?
Oh my God. Well, yeah, he's a mess. So of course his fundraising stuff is messy too. If the foes have got you down and you don't have money, don't worry about it. He did not write that.
Of course not. Of course not.
Mine, gimme, it's all mine. Oh my God. Yeah. To be totally honest, I checked out a little bit yesterday evening of of a lot of things Trump, because there's so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because, all the cameras are there and all you're watching is like, a plane landing and then a car going down the road.
It's a big nothing burger. But they kept people glued to their televisions for hours.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And he was in and out in about 20 minutes when all that was said and done. Now, apparently, height and weight was released. Apparently, height was apparently 6'3". Weight was listed as 215. Everybody's laughing their heads off at 215.
6'3" is not even possible.
That something.
No.
Yeah, but it says that, well, because Trudeau is what, 6'2"?
And he towers over him by about 2 inches plus. Right. There's photos of it. I've met Trudeau. I'm 6 foot tall. He is 2 inches taller than me.
Right. Yeah. So, man. So yeah, he was basically in and out in 20. Whoa. Sorry. Yeah, that's sorry. That should not be.
Went wild on its own.
Looking for. Yeah, really. I was looking for a photo of them standing one next to the other, or something that I could.
Yeah, there's a comparison. Well, there's not a comparison. It's when they were standing there at the G8 on the same platform, and you can see one gentleman is clearly taller than the other criminal.
Yeah, this is the closest I can get is when he's come on. Why is nothing working today?
It happens.
Okay, this is really, really weird. Okay, let's try this way then. I cannot seem to isolate the photo for some reason, but it's when the Prime Minister is, I believe, greeting Melania.
You can see he's taller in there on the same platform.
Clearly taller.
Clearly taller. And he's leaning in. It looks like he's leaning in to kiss her.
Yeah. So when they did the little kiss on the European kiss on the side.
Well, she is European after all.
Yes, exactly. I'm not sure about that 215. Now, it seems that in order to save time, some things were pre-done. So I don't know if he was allowed to
Yeah,
submit his
he did
height
on
and
his
weight
own.
on the
Yeah,
honor system.
yeah, yeah. Because here's the thing.
Yeah. That's something that they probably pre-negotiated with the lawyers. It's like, oh, we'll supply the height and weight, but we'll supply that. We don't have to do that for real life here.
Well, I mean,
Because there's no way he's
there's a
215.
picture of Muhammad Ali at 6'3", 215, when he
I
was a
know.
very young
Well, that's
man, and they put it beside Trump. I'm like, come on.
yeah, exactly. There are tons of pictures of athletes, like football
Yeah,
players, and
yeah,
So, yeah, that's why Kit Allen
maybe.
315.
Yeah,
Yeah, because he is that lazy, right? It's like just change that 3 to a 2, and everybody will believe it. It'll be fine.
well, the last time I weighed myself, I weighed 215 pounds. That was 30 years ago.
I'm always standing behind the podium. When's the last time somebody's seen my full body?
Somebody going to see it in the pen.
Oh man,
Nothing like a group shower with a
God,
bunch of criminals.
yeah, really. So yeah, all that stuff happened. I have to say, I didn't watch any of it yesterday. Like I said, I took a little break, but it has happened. I'm not sure. Well, they have until noon, so I'm not sure if everyone has surrendered yet. Last I heard, there was only about half of them had at this point. But inmate number P01135809 is Donald Trump. Let me repeat that again because it feels good. Inmate number P01135809. P01135809. It doesn't quite roll off the tongue because there's too many digits, but
You could get it
you get
going.
it.
You could get it going. Well, you got to remember too, 8675309 was a time when you could make a phone call without having to use your area code first, right?
Yes, that's true.
Right.
Yes.
Now, if you live in a large urban area, you have to use an area code because they've simply run out of number combinations between cell phones. Landline phones mostly in offices, of course, because not a lot of people have landlines at home anymore, but many people still do. But with the proliferation of people getting new phones all the time, and burners are a big thing. And at one point in time, I remember when they talked about adding another area code to Ottawa, which is 343, by the way. When they first introduced the idea that they said, well, because a lot of people are getting cell phones, but we have a lot more fax machines now. Nobody has fax machines
anymore. That happened that was the reason when the second digit of our area codes started becoming different than 011.
Yeah.
When we started getting 4s and 2s, that was because we had fax machines and
yes.
we've long passed that. Oh man!
When I lived in Chatham, New Brunswick, CFB Chatham, New Brunswick, because there was a small population base, you could actually just use 5 numbers to dial. Yeah, like say for example, say your number was 737-4284, you would just dial 74284, and you would connect with that number.
Yeah. Oh wow, neat.
I don't think it's like that anymore because they've merged a few communities and created Miramichi City, so it's about a population of 25,000. So I don't think you'd be able to do that anymore.
Yeah. So in and out in 20 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Then some yammering about I'll never surrender. Well,
you did.
You just did. That's what you were just doing. You were actually in town to surrender. I'm never surrendering. Okay, sure, buddy. Obviously, he took and as Mr. Grizzly showed you, the new presidential portrait is now ready.
Yes, it is.
They can just hand that to an artist to make a painting from it, and they could just put that in the Capitol, and let people see that forever and ever and ever. Excuse me, I have to sneeze.
No problem. You go ahead and do that. You can. You're allowed to.
Pardon me.
There's no rules against sneezing. You're
Thank you.
welcome to do so.
I appreciate
Well,
it.
we like to
I'm surprised
accommodate
he
here
didn't.
in the Beaver Lodge.
Yes.
Or I guess
No,
the
I'm
Bears
surprised he
Den in
didn't
my
use.
case. Right?
Yes, yes. I'm surprised he didn't use many of his alleged billions to hire Corey Hart to sing his song "Never Surrender" as he was
Never surrender. Yeah.
running out. Now, of course, we probably assume Corey would not accept the contract because he's a good man. But
good man, good father. Yeah.
nothing stops Donald from asking if somebody can do him a favor, though. Corey, I'm gonna have a pep walk like this. They're telling me I have to surrender. I want to send another message. Can you come and sing as I'm walking out? I want to look triumphant and defiant. Oh God, what a guy! Meanwhile, in Trumpland, one of the people, Mark Meadows, his former chief of staff, was trying not to have to surrender by today, but he did do it yesterday because apparently he's trying to have his case moved to a federal court. And Fani Willis put out a message saying, no, you have gotten more than enough time. Thank you very much in order to be able to do that. And well, it seems that the judge over there also decided, no, you can go in. So yeah, I decided that in DC on Wednesday. So you hope you can get to the hope you. I decided that's hope you can get down to Georgia fast enough to.
Devil went down to Georgia.
So yeah, so he is booked, and his bond is set to $100,000. There's a couple of them that are set to $100,000. Donald Trump's is set at $200,000, and there are various other. But basically, all the RICO charges, and most everybody has one, comes with an $80,000 bond, and then it was $10,000 bond for each of the other charges, of which he has 12 others. 12 at 10,000, 120,000 plus the 80 is 200,000. And it seems to have been a similar system for everyone that was used there. Rudy Giuliani turned himself in that I know of. The Kraken lady turned herself
Kraken
in.
lady? Who was that?
Yeah, Sidney Powell said we got to release the Kraken. So the lawyer Sidney Powell, some guy named Scott Hall turned himself in as well. So today by noon, everybody else has to turn themselves in, or as Fani Willis said, by 12:30, she will be filing documents. So let's see who does and who doesn't. That will be a little bit of an interesting thing. Now, Trump is quoted as saying, after all was said and done, if you challenge an election, you should be able to challenge an election. I think the election was a rigged election. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't think that. You don't think that because Jack Smith has evidence that I believe on January 4th or 5th, you were in the awful office with Mike Pence and Mike Pence's chief of staff and Mike Pence's counsel. And you were trying to convince him yet again to violate his oath of office. And I believe Mike Ronan, who's number two, or was number two, because he had to step down from the IDU after this popped up. But up until about 1 week before he was charged, or a couple of days before he was charged, he was the number two, Harper's number two at the IDU. I had a good friend of
Andrew Scheer.
Yeah. Andrew Scheer, because Q quarterbacked his campaign.
We don't know if there's any connection to Polyev because we've not seen anything. So, no.
Yeah, we don't know. But while you got Andrew Scheer like creating all these new videos like this and breaking out his dimples and corruption. Yeah. Talk to us about your relationship with Mike Ronan. Yeah, asshole. Anyway, so in the office, trying to pressure him to do that, while Mike Ronan is specifically saying, "Now these two options that we're giving you are not particularly legal." And Trump is quite aware that he's lost the election because everybody's told him. So no, he does not think the election was rigged. He thinks he needs to say the election was rigged in order to keep going. But he does not think the election's rigged. Well, maybe Trump really, really does believe it. It's like,
No, he
no,
doesn't. He
no,
never
no,
did. He
he
knew he
doesn't.
lost. He
He
was just
doesn't.
bullshitting everybody because he could get away with it until he
I
couldn't.
think the election was rigged. I believe the election is rigged. Those are lies. I choose to
Yeah, there's a
believe
difference there.
the election is rigged.
Verbiage is important, remember.
Very, very different. Okay. And I should have every right to do that, to challenge the election. What has taken place here is a travesty of justice. He needs new material,
Yeah.
man. We've done nothing wrong. I've done nothing wrong. And I've done so much nothing wrong that I'm indicted 4 times. I've been impeached twice. I'm a 3-time loser.
Mm,
And there's probably 3 more states that will indict me for the fake electors.
yeah.
And my Trump University got me sued, and I can't do business in New York City because of the tax stuff and the charity stuff. And there's the thing with the video camera
All of the
stuff.
stuff.
And again, then I'm still in trial with E. Jean Carroll again. And they're still looking into my inaugural committee and how I'm using my super PAC money. And I probably committed more crimes in trying to defend myself from the things I'm in court for right now. So there's probably more coming. But I've done nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong.
So much nothing wrong. So much nothing wrong.
Belligerence
That's
and
a lot
hostility.
of nothing wrong going on.
Trump's mugshot defines modern U.S. politics.
Ah.
Hillary was right about everything.
Yeah. Yeah, she
really was.
Oh my God.
Like her,
she
love her,
ever-
hate her, I don't care. She was dialed
Yeah.
in. She knew what she was talking about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, Trump tried his counter programming thing for the debate with fucker Snarlson on X. Nobody's talking about
I
it.
didn't see it. Didn't even hear about it. Didn't even
Yeah.
know about it.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems that he didn't do it live on the
Oh,
night.
no?
Oh, no. He was lazy. He recorded that a whole week before, and then they just aired it. Right? So what he was saying wasn't even necessarily current because there's nothing that he addressed that happened in the week between the time he recorded and whatnot because it was recorded. And since being arraigned in Fulton County, Trump has basically sold Truth Social down the river.
Oh, did he?
Because he made his first appearance on the shitter. He tweeted his own mugshot with "Never surrender."
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. Which means, but he said he would never come back, and now he's back because his fundraising is not working. But everybody's been saying he couldn't come back to shitter because the second he would do that, the value of Truth Social would just plummet. Not that it had very much value already,
with, right?
He was being sued like crazy. So he just stuck the knife in Truth Social. He's desperate for money. He's returning to the jitter. Now, and 45 also decided that he needs to get himself a brand new shiny attorney now for Georgia because things are serious. So he's now got a new special counsel for a guy who describes himself as a special counsel for white collar and high profile defense. So we have a new person coming in. Hope you got paid up front, buddy. Jeffrey Clark also surrendered yesterday.
Paid up front.
$400,000.
It's true. It's true. It's true because he stiffs everybody.
He got paid up front and make sure the check cleared.
Yeah, dude. As soon as he hands you that check, run to the bank and get it certified right away and cash it.
Because he has a reputation for stiffing people, and he broke. His orange ass be broke.
Maybe he can hit up his daughter Ivanka.
Didn't
she make a couple billion off the Saudis or something like that?
Yeah, she's got some patents now.
Yeah. Where has Ivanka been during all of this? Oh, that's right. Nowhere to be seen.
Living her best life, leaving Daddy behind. She carried him for so long.
Well,
best 215 pounds she ever lost.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Skippy air quotes are on that 215.
215,
If this guy is 215, Madonna's still a virgin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. When she's singing like a virgin, she's singing that from the depth of her souls for real.
You think?
Okay.
Uh,
Oh boy.
let's pivot a
Okay.
bit, shall we?
No,
Oh, you got
not
more?
yet. Not
Okay.
yet.
No.
There's more good stuff. Oh yes.
I'm just
Kenneth
tired of hearing
Cheese,
of Trump.
bro.
That's all.
I know you mean.
Tell you what,
But there's so
I'm
much
going to get
better
another
right
coffee. You keep rolling. I'll be back in a
now. Okay.
moment.
All right. Kenneth Cheesebro, one of the 19, is trying to screw up Fonnie Wolf's plans because he decided he really does want a speedy trial, whereas Trump doesn't. So he filed to have his trial start October 23rd, which would throw a wrench in Fonnie Wolf's plans, apparently, to prosecute all 19 at the same time, because there's a lot of them who do not want their right to a speedy trial to be adhered to. It's like, no, you can take your time. Yeah, it seems that his will start October 23rd. So Fannie Willis in court asked for a October 23rd trial date for all 19. She has been saying that she's ready to go. So she's just proven it in court, saying, "Yeah, I'm okay. We can, you want to go early, October 23rd, Mr. Cheesebro? Well, how about we do October 23rd for all 19 of you?" Now that's probably not going to happen because there's probably a whole bunch of those 19 that are going to go, "Whoa, wow, wow, wow." So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't know if this is a play to try to get some of the information out in one trial early to help prepare more defense or something. But yeah, not good at all. Not good at all. Let's see what else has happened in there with these people, because there's been so much. Oh yes. The other thing is that when they were filing, so I'm going to have to try to keep the cases because this one, that's the 6. So in the documents case, which is the other case, Usil Tavares, who was the IT guy, has flipped. He has a new lawyer.
Oh.
And the second he got a new lawyer, just like Cassidy Hutchinson, he recanted his story and gave a whole new testimony. Now, it seems that they've asked for some delays because they have so much documentation. And in the documentation, they were saying, well, look at all these documents. There's 3.1 million of them. If you stack them all up one on top of the other, it would be taller than the Washington Monument. It would be like reading Tolstoy's War and Peace or something like that, 72 times a day, or like this. And to Jack Smith, he was like already ready, of course, because he already has it. He just like file this thing right away. Boom. Quote, in cases such as this one, the burden of reviewing discovery cannot be measured by page count alone, and comparisons to the height of the Washington Monument and the length of a Tolstoy novel are neither helpful nor insightful. In fact, comparisons such as those are a distraction from the issue at hand, which is determining what is required to prepare for trial to accomplish that. The discovery should instead be measured by its relevance, organization, accessibility, searchability, and reviewability. Here, the government has organized and produced materials in a manner designed to ease and expedite the defendant's review and search, which allows for a trial to proceed as the government has proposed. In other words, it's like, yeah, we handed you all the documents and we gave you the exact timestamps we're going to use, and we pointed you to the exact paragraphs that we're going to use in each one of these documents. So now you don't really have to go through 1.31 billion pages. We highlighted everything we're going to be using. Oops. It seems that with Usil Tavares, there was a potential conflict with his lawyer, Stanley Woodward, because Stanley Woodward was representing witnesses who could potentially incriminate one another and incriminate Donald Trump. In fact, Woodward was representing 8 different people, just like that lawyer in Georgia who was representing, I think, 10 of the 16 electors or something like that. And one of them said, like, I'm definitely testifying against these people. And she got, I could still represent you. And it's like, no, you can't. I'm going to testify against your other 9 clients. It's like, I see no reason for which that would be a conflict. So apparently Woodward did not read the newspaper articles featuring this lawyer in Georgia who got into trouble because as the investigation gathered evidence that Trump and Nada endeavored to obstruct the investigation by the grand jury sitting in the District of Columbia. Trump employee Carlos de Oliveira, who's now a charged co-defendant, tried to enlist the director of information technology from Mar-a-Lago, identified in the superseding indictment as Trump employee number 4, Mr. Tavares, to delete Mar-a-Lago security footage after the grand jury in D.C. had issued a subpoena for the footage. That is very, 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 very bad. Now, deleting the footage before the subpoena would be bad enough because it's destroying evidence, but trying to destroy the evidence after the subpoena has been issued is a super huge, big, mega, mega, mega no-no. Now, Jack Smith raised the potential conflict of interest, and Mr. Woodward responded that he did not have a reason to believe that this concurrent representation of Tavares and Nada was a conflict. But Mr. Woodward let Mr. Tavares go into the grand jury and be placed under oath and tell lies that would end up protecting Woodward's other client, Nada, which end up protecting Donald Trump, whose PAC money is covering the legal fees for Mr. Tavares. See how that works? Et voila, carnation instant conflict of interest breakfast. Just add Trump. Well, Jack Smith was not having any of that, so he again says to Woodward, you have a conflict. You can't sacrifice one of your clients to protect another one of your clients in order to protect Donald Trump. And Woodward's position was, yeah, I can and I will. So Smith filed a motion with the Chief Judge Boasberg called a Garcia motion. And this judge has federal responsibility, supervisory responsibility over the grand jury in GC. And the Garcia motion is basically a motion filed by the opposing lawyer to ask the judge to ensure that the other, in this case, the defendant, has competent conflict-free counsel to look out for the defendant's interests rather than Mr. Trump's. And Chief Judge Boasberg decided that he was going to make available independent counsel, the first assistant in the Federal Public Defender's Office for the District of Columbia, to provide advice to Mr. Tavares regarding potential conflicts. And then Mr. Tavares informed the Chief Judge that he no longer wished to be represented by Mr. Woodward. After receiving that advice, he was to be represented by the first assistant federal defender, who gave him that advice. And immediately after receiving new counsel, Mr. Tavares, Trump employee number 4, retracted his fire pulse testimony and provided information that implicated Nada, De Oliveira, and Trump in efforts to delete security camera footage as set forth in the superseding indictment.
Well.
It's so much fun.
Well,
there's a lot going on.
You say that.
Yeah, he's in trouble. All right. Now that we've started with dessert. Hey, there are certain dentists out there that say eat dessert first and then eat your meal. Because when you're chewing,
it helps to clean the sugar from the dessert away
off your teeth.
I've never heard that before, but that seems to be
now your
reasonable.
Your dietitian won't recommend that you eat dessert first, but your dentist will.
I don't know much.
All right. So that's the Trump stuff. Let's see. What else we have?
Well, I've got this thing.
I
got a bunch of things. The Ontario Green Party calls for a public inquiry into the Greenbelt land distribution report.
Mm-hmm.
Calls for public inquiry after bombshell Greenbelt report. The Ontario Green Party is in the process of submitting a formal request for an independent public inquiry into the Doug Ford government's handling of the Greenbelt development. At a news conference held Thursday, leader Mike Schreiner argued the matter was of significant public interest and that the Auditor General's report released earlier this month, which exposed a deeply flawed decision-making structure lacking in transparency, has broader policy implications. People want transparency. They want accountability. And they want to know the truth, Schreiner said. The only way we're going to get that level of accountability and that level of transparency is through an independent public inquiry. I like the sound of that. And again, if we go back to the debates last year, the provincial debates, the only leader I felt had any amount of integrity or salt or was Mike Schreiner of the Green Party. He was the only guy who stayed on message, stayed on point, said he didn't sit there and throw mud at any leader. He just stuck to his messaging. He was the only decent one on that stage. And I think it's a shame that, well, I mean, he personally got elected, but I think it's a shame that his party really had no hope in hell of getting elected because, again, he was the only guy with any integrity at all. And, there was rumors of him crossing the floor and joining the Liberal Party because the Liberals were really courting him. But it looks to me like nothing's come of that. But anyway, it's like he's a good man. And I hope he leads the charge on this.
Yeah, me too. Because there should.
Oh, yeah.
There should definitely be a public inquiry. I mean, when the Auditor General runs to the to the OPP and the OPP goes, "Oh yeah, we're just too conflicted. We can't handle this." Yeah. It might be time.
Oh yeah,
it might be time for a public inquiry. Oh man, I tell you, man, that stuff is a mess.
Well, Wayne Gates is tearing into Doug Ford right now too. We know from day one their plan was to carve up the Greenbelt to enrich their developer buddies. Now we're seeing the whole scheme unfold, and it potentially has criminal implications. We need to be back at Queen's Park ASAP. It's like we can build 2 million homes right now on land that's ready to be developed. It's like not Greenbelt land that was sanctioned for this purpose.
Right.
But, his buddies won't make nearly as much money off of it, so why do that, right?
Yeah, indeed. Oh, man. It's just so damn crazy.
Yeah, agreed.
Oh, God. We told you earlier in the week that there was a meeting of the BRICS nations in Johannesburg, South Africa, to which Vladolf Putler could not participate in person. He had to participate virtually because, South Africa has signed on to the International Criminal Court, and there is an international warrant out for Putin's arrest for war crimes.
For good reason.
Yes, absolutely. Now, the BRICS is a group of countries. It stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And they are a group of countries that make up about 40% of the population of the world and 25% of the world's GDP. Russia initiated the summit between these countries about 15 years ago in a push for a multipolar world. They found that the world was too dominated by the United States, and they wanted to create more pools of power. Hence BRICS. So basically they were emerging economies. But now it looks like they are looking to expand, and that was part of the reason for which they were meeting. It seems that there were 40 other nations that were interested in joining the group, such as Venezuela and Algeria and Saudi Arabia, Iran. South African authorities wanted to expand the group to make it seem more like an economic group, or a group that represents the global South, rather than a political bloc to oppose the West, because South Africa is a democratic nation and not all the nations in BRIC are, as opposed to certain other organizations which tend to be a little more democratic. But their goal, while everybody here is talking about the New World Order, that the Schwabs and WEF and all that, the BRICS nations are actually on record as wanting to create a new world order that challenges U.S. dominance of global affairs and the market reliance on the U.S. dollar. So the group was originally formed in 2009 to seek a larger voice at the World Bank and the IMF, but since then it's become more of a geopolitical group than an economic one. So they've decided that they are going to expand, and they are inviting 6 nations to join them: Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the UAE, Ethiopia, and Iran. And their membership in the BRICS will take effect on January 1st, 2024. Don't know if the name of the group is going to change because they're
Some
including them more.
interesting countries joining that, though, like Ethiopia,
Yeah.
a beautiful country, has a pretty decent economy, actually. Argentina, who, again, beautiful country, been there. I haven't been to Ethiopia yet, but it is on my list. But
Yeah, the economy is bigger, but it's in a mess.
Well, I was
It's
going
a
to say
mess right
Argentina's
now.
got a very large economy, but their money is their currency is worth nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And their economy
Yeah,
is in the toilet. It's big. It's a big economy, but it's not doing well.
Yeah. Well, not only is it not doing well, but I heard on the radio the other day that people have no savings.
No,
because at inflation rate of 115, it's like, let's go out to dinner tonight because tomorrow our money might not be able to afford steak.
Yes.
so
and you got to remember,
restaurants are doing really well right now.
Argentines eat a lot of steak. Like, I mean,
yes.
You know, that's Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, Brazil, steak. But well, to give you an example, there, I think there's, I can't remember the correct number for Uruguay. It's either 2 million or 4 million people. I'll say 4 million people. I think it's 4 million people that live in Uruguay, and there's 8 million cows.
Wow.
Well,
that's a lot of farting.
When we were in Punta del Este, which is basically the San Tropez of South America, we're on the main drag and we're walking around, and there's a McDonald's, which in Uruguay, it's not a greasy fast food place. It's actually it's expensive. Uruguayans don't go all the time like they do, like Canadians and North Americans do, because it's expensive. So I said, "Come on, guys, we gotta go in and have a McDonald's burger." And they're like, "You know what? Yes, let's do it." I have never had a better McDonald's burger in my life because they're
table service.
Well, table service, but they're also using the beef is locally sourced.
Right.
It's Uruguayan grass-fed beef. I ate so much steak while I was there. I ate so much meat. I'm not a big veg guy because I have a million food allergies, but it was funny when I got back. I looked at my friend Justine and I'm like, I'm eating nothing but salad for 2 weeks. She's like, me too. I mean, all we ate was goat and beef, and it's like we ate like kings. Don't get me wrong, but 2 weeks of nonstop beef is, you know.
Meat sweats.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The only time I ever got to meat sweats is when I went to what do they call those? The churrascaria?
Yeah.
The Brazilian ones?
Barbecue. Yeah. When they come in with a sword and they slice it and put it on your plate.
Yeah.
There's a couple around here. There's a couple great ones in Montreal that I've been to.
Yeah.
And they always have the Brazilian dancers that come out, like they look like they're in Carnival. They're wearing almost nothing.
Yep.
Sorry, I was having a visual there for a minute. I was like,
see, that's
we're sitting there. That's and I'm like, there are families in the restaurant. And this woman comes out, and I'm like, it's a cultural thing, right? And I'm like,
yeah,
I like Brazilian culture.
I can see you doing that. Like this, you be sitting there going, "Wow," and I'm sitting there, I'll be getting go, "Wow, how does that stay on?"
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of shaking.
Yeah,
and very little material.
Glue, I would assume.
Lots of glue. Jennifer Lopez at the
yes.
I remember that, dude. Thank God, because like the whole night I was wondering, like, how is it sticking
glue.
on? And then it was the next day we found out about the double-sided tape.
Yeah. That's the only way.
Okay.
That'd be the only way.
Okay. See, that still wouldn't work for me. I sweat way too much. Yeah, I would not be able to do that. All right. Next issue.
I have the video of Mike Greiner, actually. Mike Schreiner, sorry.
Okay, yes.
Mike Greiner's a different person.
You keep calling him Mike Greiner.
I know.
Like, so cute.
Hang on, I'll just throw this up. This is really good. This is really, really good. Just give me a sec here till I make sure the volume is up. Okay, let's go. We're going to rock it with this.
Ontarians deserve accountability from the Ford government for their $8.3 billion Greenbelt scandal. But ever since the Auditor General's report 2 weeks ago, the Premier has repeatedly failed the accountability test. The resignation of Minister Clark's chief of staff, coupled with the information that the OPP has requested the RCMP to look into investigating the Greenbelt scandal, are the first steps to holding this government accountable. But they're only the first steps. If the Premier believes this is the end of the story, then he's wrong. There is so much more that needs to be done and that needs to be learned in order to hold this government accountable and to restore public trust. Now is the time more than ever to restore accountability and trust in government for the people of Ontario. The Auditor General's report answered some questions, but it actually raised even more questions. And that's why the Ontario Greens today are calling for a full, independent public inquiry into the Premier's Greenbelt giveaway. People want transparency, they want accountability, and they want to know the truth. And the only way that we're going to get that level of transparency and accountability is through an independent public inquiry.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong at all.
Mm-hmm. 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 I like that, man.
So do I. He seems like a good, decent human being.
Yeah.
And the other fella that I really like right now is who wants to become the Liberal leader is Nate Erskine-Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I checked out his platform and his page, and I'm like, I could get behind that guy. You know, I mean, he's like, you can sign up for free if you like, and I'm like, well, I can't actually do that, but I can't. I can't join a political party because of what I do. Mm-hmm. Number one, and number two, I said I never would, so I won't. But I would recommend people check him out. He's a good, decent man, and I think he would. I think he could right the ship that has lilted to its side. That is the Liberal Party of Ontario.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I can see that. I can see that. The interim leaders, I have to say, is impressive as well.
Oh, yes.
For the Liberal Party. But this is his second go-round as interim leader. So, you know, he's kind of got it down by now. But, yeah, he's... I've heard him speak a few times. And he does have the gravitas. I'm surprised that he doesn't want the job, to be totally honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I was quite impressed with the way that he handled himself. We have to understand with this Ford thing, right? That Ryan Amato remained employed for a full week and a day or something after this came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he resigned and Ford accepted it. Now, Ford's first instinct, again, was not to fire anyone. So all of a sudden he accepts it. And there's no real explanation for why that is. Now, I don't know if Amato's resignation makes the Inspector General, the IG Ontario, because all this Trump stuff, there's Inspector Generals in the United States. So I don't know if it makes
General?
No, not the Auditor General. The Auditor General did her thing, but then she doesn't have the power to lay charges.
Oh,
but I think the Inspector General does. Anyway, his name is J. David Wake. I don't know if the fact that Amato resigns ends the investigation from the IG part, or whether or not he continues the investigation. Because sometimes if someone resigns, then they go, it's no point in investigating it. Now it's moot. They're not in the job. So I don't know if the resignation made the IG investigation go away. I'd hope that some journalists asked that, but I haven't heard anything. The IG is also investigating Clark, by the way.
That's interesting.
And one of the reasons why I don't know if it was for something else, but according to the Steve Paikin and John Michael McGrath on the On Poly podcast, that Clark was also being investigated, and I think it might have been for a separate matter. Now, Ford can't afford to lose Clark because Clark, and there's another thing, a little piece of detail that lets you know that this is something that he intended to do from the beginning and never let go of.
Mm-hmm.
Clark has been the Minister of Housing since 2018.
Right.
Ministers usually change portfolios about once every 2 years or something
5
like that.
years, man.
But he kept the same guy
Yeah.
in housing.
Wonder why that
5
is. Who's in Dougie's pocket?
Yes. And he happens to be the only representative for all of Eastern Ontario at the cabinet table. So if he loses Clark, there's nobody from Eastern Ontario at the cabinet table. Now, during that press conference that we showed you clips from, and we said that Clark came in to save Ford. Clark came in to save Ford on 9 different occasions during that 1 hour. 9. Premier Kathleen Wynne, after all this was over, is on record as saying, the Premier and the Minister say they were unaware that the pre-selection of lands for removal of the Greenbelt was biased. If that is true, and it is hard to believe, but if it is true, it is a complete abdication of responsibility on both their parts. Merritt Stiles, leader of the opposition, said, did he think it was coincidence that only the people that have connections to his government, that have donated to his government, that so few would happen to be the successful winners in all of this? I mean, he had to know some of this. I can't believe he didn't. And again, if he wants to come out and say, you know what, I'm just wildly incompetent, great, go ahead. And then John Fraser, who we're talking about from the Liberal Party, who's the interim leader, says, the Premier must ask Mr. Clark to step aside. There is a principle of ministerial accountability, and there is no way on God's green earth that the minister's chief of staff did anything without the minister's express direction and full knowledge. I spent 15 years in government. There is absolutely no way that that happened, and the denial of knowing things by both the Premier and the minister is totally unbelievable. It's preposterous. And he delivered it with that John Fraser voice that has the graphic. I seriously don't know why this guy is not running.
You got me.
Because he knocked it. He knocked it out of the park when he was when he did that part. So I'm impressed with him. But there are, like I said, Nate Erskine-Smith is an impressive candidate, and there's a 5th person that joined the race. I can't remember their name off the top of my head, and it's someone I have not heard of before. But yeah, Doug.
Yeah.
Oh man, greasy, so damn greasy.
I'm just,
when he's there, like, sweating, if he's like dabbing himself like this, that's not sweat. That's like little grease coming out of his.
oozing it. It's what it is.
Oh my God, this guy is so freaking crooked. That's unbelievable. Okay. Moving on. Yesterday, we showed you a little leg.
Oh, I've got.
Oh,
well, I have something here that. Hang on a sec. Let me just. Here it is. It's an exasperation moment for me. Protesters try to bypass RCMP wildfire blockade amid rising tensions in BC's shoe swap region.
The region where people are getting mad at people and we're throwing stuff at.
Police say protesters challenge officers at the blockade on the Trans-Canada Highway, and threats of violence against emergency workers had prompted the Mounties to increase their presence there. Live social media videos of the incident posted Wednesday evening show about 20 protesters confronting a blockade of police cars near the lakeside community of Sorrento. Now, here's where the stupidity gets extra stupid. They tell officers they do not believe politicians have the right to prevent them using the road and that it is illegal for the RCMP to block it.
This is convoy all over again.
It's exactly what it is. It's like we're blocking the road because there's a fire there. And if you go down there, you're likely to die. We're doing it for your own safety. You can't tell me what to do. Jesus H. This is a warning to all you Canadians out there. This is what's coming, says one man after confronting police in a video of the Sorrento incident, referring to the police blockade at the intersection of Blind Bay Road.
Let me do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, or else it's tyranny.
And then when they get hurt, you should have had somebody in place to protect us from our own stupidity. Well, they wouldn't say it quite like that, but that's effectively what it would be. And people ask me why I'm exasperated all the time. Well, that's why. It's the convoy all over again. And all mandates. Well, they're provincial. What are you doing in Ottawa?
The government has no right to tell me what to do at all.
Well, I don't know if you noticed. If you ever look at some of the comments on the shorts, my response to them is usually, hey, thanks for watching. Please share and subscribe. But a couple of them yesterday, from one of them about talking about, nobody's freedom was taken away. The absolute, I'm not responding to any of them on this time because the absolute lunacy that goes along. Stop watching CNN. Get your news from other sources. No, I don't watch CNN, so I don't have CNN, so I can't watch it. Number one. Things like, we were all locked down and people were getting pulled over in their cars and getting arrested. No, they weren't. That didn't happen. Yeah. We weren't allowed to leave the country. Well, you were allowed to get on an aircraft if you were vaccinated and could prove that you were. And that was only after a while. You couldn't get on a plane for a while because they weren't flying. They grounded themselves intentionally to prevent the spread of disease. But some people just, they don't believe in science. They don't believe in, I don't know what they believe in. Honestly, I don't know what they believe in. They believe in their own bullshit, clearly. And they like to hear the sound of their own voices. And you know what it is? I think it's we had a group of people who felt so lost and so empty and so without that they found like-minded community that said the same things over and over again that they liked hearing and decided they were going to go all in on it. Because I don't know what else to say about this. It's like mass psychosis.
It seems so.
I'm always exasperated. Too damn often.
I can understand that, my friend. I can understand that. It is objectively too damn much.
Yes.
But that's the point.
Yeah.
They want us to be overwhelmed. All right. Yesterday we teased. We showed a little egg talking about the fact that one of the reasons for which the full public inquiry into election interference has not taken place yet is because, it takes quite a while for people to get security clearance. And, then Special Rapporteur David Johnston said that I invite the leaders of the opposition to get their security clearance and come and look at the documents that I looked at, and any reasonable person would reach the same conclusion. Well, it seems that 2 of the 4 opposition leaders took the former Governor General up on that offer. Green Party leader Elizabeth May and NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. And Elizabeth May was and Mr. Singh both got their clearances, and Miss May has already looked at the documents and or what she was allowed to look at, and has reported back on it. Meanwhile, Blanchette and Poilievre have done absolutely nothing. As we keep on saying, they've gone limp. They've made themselves dead weight. They're being unhelpful in that area. It seems that, according to the government, that there is progress in the group to move ahead, and everybody, including the Bloc, seems to agree, except for the Conservatives, that all party leaders need to approve of the person that will be tapped to head the inquiry or the group of people, if it's a panel, before it is announced. Because we're not having another David Johnston again, where we do all that work, we name someone, and then the Conservatives come in and then start to trash the person. Of course, the Conservatives don't want to do that.
No.
Because, again, I don't want to be muzzled. I want to reserve my right. I want to reserve my right to trash everything you do. I don't want to signal that I put any buy-in into anything that you've done so I can trash anything. So I'm not going to participate in this process like all the other leaders of the oppositions are doing with good faith,
They can't
like all
rage
the other
farm.
leaders of the opposition are doing.
They can't rage farm if they, if they actually take
So
part in the
basically,
process. They can't rage farm anymore. They can't make up stuff.
we have a battle of wills, sort of like, imagine in a relationship where somebody says, if you really love me, you'll do this. And the other person goes, well, if you really love me, you wouldn't be asking me to do this.
Mm.
This is the kind of dynamic that's going on right now, like this. And, well, the conservatives are the ones basically asking, well, if you love us, if you love Canada, if you love democracy, if you love transparency, then you got to do it our way. And everybody else is going, well, if you love all those things, why aren't you doing it the standard operating proceeding way that everybody else is doing it? Why are you delaying it happening? So, Miss May, I'm going to have a couple of clips for you.
Okie dokie.
Now, the first one has nothing to do with the inquiry. It's just about her because, as we had reported, she was ill.
Right.
And she had been admitted to the hospital. Now, in order to do this, the doctors had not cleared her for flight travel.
Okay.
So she took the train for 3.5, 4 days.
I was going to say across
from
the country.
all the way to come to Ottawa.
Wow.
To deliver this news. When she was already on break because she had been doing too much and she's tired. And you'll be able to see, if you're looking at her, that she's definitely recovering and she isn't at 100% full strength yet.
Okie dokie.
All right. From Mr. Grizzly.
My dear friend and colleague, Jonathan Pedno, chef adjoint, Pâté Vert de Canada. I'm extremely glad to be here because the alternative is being dead. Honestly, June 29th, I had a hemorrhagic stroke where the options were I was either surviving or I was going to die during the stroke. But fortunately, at the time, I didn't know that. I only learned over.
What happened? Oh, it looks like we lost Mr. Beaver. Yeah, his feed has gone dead. So I'll wait a few minutes and see if he can come back in. I don't have that clip, unfortunately, so I won't be able to air it. But we'll see what we can do to get him back. I'm sure he's going to jump in and out. I get a text message from him in a second or two here, I'm sure. I do have a couple of other things while we're waiting. I want to read you a very important thread from a friend of the show and somebody that I've been connected with on the Twitter for a number of years now. Mr. Mike Gerald Gibbs. He's out of the TO area. He used to live here in Ottawa. He used to be involved in federal politics. This is a fairly long Twitter thread, a tweet thread. I don't know. What do we call them now? Zits? I don't know. Anyway, it's. I'm going to read this to you and do with it what you will, but I think you should try and spread this message. I will put a link to it in the chat after I've read it to you. Here we go. Dear families and loved ones of people living with drug addictions in Newfoundland who protested today, I'm terribly sorry you lost your daughters and sons recently. You are now part of a community that includes me too. I'm going to tell you some blunt, hard truths that you may not be ready to hear yet, but I don't believe there's ever a good time. If you talk to families and users who have been part of this community for many years, most will tell you the same truth if you ask them. You may not like hearing it in this moment because some of the things you were demanding today, I cheer your activism regardless and unequivocally you are very brave, are not quite the right things to ask for and wouldn't change much. 1, your children did not die because they were weak, they failed, or deserved to. Repeat that to yourself every night, even if you think you already believe it. Say it and repeat it. They did nothing wrong. That's the first essential truth you have to believe before you can understand what people suffering drug addictions and drug users need. 2, what was the common denominator when you talk to other families? Rehab. They all went to rehab and some multiple times. Inpatient rehab and trying to quit cold turkey does not work for the vast majority of people. Your children did not fail rehab. Rehab failed them. It is probably the worst healthcare failure ever. It fails something like 95% of people. Don't believe bullshit stats that rehabs tell you. They are money pits, and that's it. Rehab is traumatic. It adds a trauma to their lives. What does trauma lead to? Sending anyone to rehab, especially against their will or under duress, like through the justice system, fills them up with a greater desire than ever before to use. They walk out looking better. They will tell you exactly what you want to hear. You will think rehab succeeded. Sound familiar? I listened to you today, and it sounded like all of you experienced this. Your children weren't lying to you. They wanted to believe it too. But they were saying it more of fear and shame than anything else. Under duress, the threat of being sent back there. The hard truth you may not be ready to accept is that rehab significantly increases the chance a drug user dies, and soon. Rehabs will tell you they just need more rehab when users start using again. Yet it fails so badly, users start using more and take big risks, which equals overdoses. What sort of responsible healthcare provider claims that more of a treatment that failed and ultimately made the patient sicker is the answer? Think about it logically. Erase all your presumptions about drug use and drug users. What if we were talking about a cancer treatment? If it was a cancer, that healthcare provider would be shut down, run out of town, and lose their license, right? How is that any different? Ask yourself that. So your problem is not that Newfoundland doesn't have enough rehabs. The last thing you need is more rehabs and things that support and enable rehabs. Across Canada, we need more mental health workers and physicians who can do outpatient, individualized care. Those patients tend to do well. The goal has to be keeping people alive, not quitting drug use. When drug users are allowed to use as they please in a comfortable environment, monitored by a physician, employing harm reduction with safe supply, they tend not to die. Yes, that is enabling. It's enabling people to live. Being alive and high is better than dead. And guess what? As they found in Portugal, in many cases, drug users will use less and less over time, naturally. They slowly transition into a moderation approach to consumption, and some will eventually quit. And it works because it's on their terms, not your terms or the justice system terms. But whether they quit or use more safely, both outcomes are a success because they are alive and no longer living in distress. Because there's nothing wrong with wanting to get high. We're not in their heads. We haven't lived their traumas and pain. We can't decide for anyone else what they choose to use to endure life. It's not for us to judge. So I hope you will over time think about it more and talk to more families who have lived with this and been on the front lines for many years and join us in our crusade calling for legalization of all drugs, safe supply provided by regulated suppliers, safer supply. And that is a brilliant tweet thread from my friend, Twitter friend. We've never met in person, but my friend Mike Gerald Gibbs, who, like I said, I've been in touch with over the years on Twitter. And that thread, I mean, the way he so succinctly describes what is the problem, and I completely agree with everything he said and wrote. Rehab doesn't work for the vast majority of people. It simply doesn't. I read an article years ago about another type of rehab for people who consume too much alcohol. I'm not going to name the name of it, but it's rather anonymous. And in the article, it said that it fails a great number of people because it makes them feel guilty. It makes them feel like a failure if after they get their 60-day medal and then they go out and drink and they have to start at scratch because they're no longer sober, because it's like, that's not the right way to do it. Punishing people
all I got was the footnotes
when they fall down is not what you should be doing. Pick them up. Help them move forward in their lives. So I think that thread from Mike Gibbs is one of the most poignant ones I've ever read when it comes to addiction and rehabilitation for drug users. And I am going to put a link to that in the thread. Where did I put it? Oops. There it is. I'm going to put a link to that in the chat. Sorry, not the thread. I get confused sometimes. That happens. A lot of concussions, right? So.
Sorry, I missed that. I'm going to look forward to go checking that out because I like Mike Gibbs.
Yeah, he's good. Good man. Good man.
Good man. Good content. Okay, let's try this again. This is the second time in a few weeks. As soon as I click on something to play something that it works.
Right?
Yeah, because the other time I was trying to show an old Canada and then it worked near the end of the show. So let's try it again and hopefully this will work. Sorry for whatever's going to repeat, but here we go.
There's not a whole lot of repetition. We only got a few seconds in when it crashed.
All right, here we go.
I'm extremely glad to be here because the alternative is being dead. Honestly, June 29th, I had a hemorrhagic stroke where the options were I was either surviving or I was going to die during the stroke. But fortunately, at the time, I didn't know that. I only learned over a period of the following week or so what had actually happened to me. And I'm very, very grateful to be all right, to continue my work, and to be here with you. And I want to thank all the people, particularly colleagues from Parliament Hill, who sent me so many wonderful messages to encourage me to get well and to get back. I want to acknowledge that we're on the traditional territory of the Algonquin Nation, unceded, unsurrendered.
So, good to see she's back. You can see in her eyes a bit that she's still a little tired.
Oh, yeah.
And I would have taken another week. I know her husband is very, 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 very worried about her. But yeah, so that was the first bit of news, and it's good to know that she is doing okay and all that. Now, in this little clip here, she is making clear what the Green Party's position is with regard to a full public inquiry. So, Mr. Grizzly?
Okay, just a second, sir. There you go.
Right.
Let me just say from the outset that the Green Party's been clear from the beginning that we needed a public inquiry. Both Mike Morris, Member of Parliament for Kitchener Centre, and myself, and Jonathan and I, as spokespeople for the party, have said from the beginning that the degree of public concern was not going to be met with the special rapporteur process. And I particularly want to draw a line here to say that I recall the day that it was announced in Parliament that there would not be a public inquiry, but we would have a special rapporteur. And that person was not at that point named. I don't know how many of you can remember that moment where it was put forward there'd be a special rapporteur. And I happened to be out in the foyer and entered into a scrum. And Tonda McCharles asked me what I thought of the special rapporteur process. And I just said, and again, no mention of David Johnston at this point, because I think his reputation has been affected by this in a way that's unfortunate. I said, look, that dog won't hunt. I mean, a special rapporteur is not going to cut it with the degree of public concern that's been created by leaks from CSIS, media coverage of allegations, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just set that in the background context that where Greens have been from the beginning is we're going to need a public inquiry. We're going to need to build public trust in our institutions, and we're going to need to do that in a way that is as transparent as possible.
All right. Now she continues on to speak about David Johnston.
I want to, in that context, thank David Johnston for his service to this country. It's been very, very hard as a member of Parliament to vote that there has to be a public inquiry. It wasn't a lack of confidence in the personal integrity of David Johnston, far from it. It just was a process that wasn't going to work. I've gone over his first report carefully, and as you may recall, he, in that report, said, look, I've been able to see all the top secret documents. I can't share that with all of you. But he did say, I've prepared a report and a supplementary confidential document that people can see in a confidential annex if they have top secret security clearance, and there was an invitation to leaders of opposition parties to obtain top secret security clearance. Progress report, as of now, as far as I know, the only two opposition leaders to have accepted that invitation were leader of the New Democratic Party, Jagmeet Singh, and I've seen in the media recently only that he's cleared he now has top secret security clearance, but has not yet looked at the documents. I have obtained top secret security clearance and have looked at all available documents, and I want to report to you on what that looks like.
All right. So now we're starting to get to the good stuff, right? And there is some good stuff.
I want to also start by emphasizing the parts of David Johnston's report, which when I go over them again these months later, haven't gotten, I don't think, enough attention and do at least from my point of view, merit support. So looking particularly at his comments, which I think are very important, on the nature of the leaks. At page 17 of his report, he says, quote, leaking secret intelligence is unlawful and a breach of duty by the leaker. It cannot be justified by any frustration the leaker may have with the government's response. Clearly, it undermines confidence that our Five Eyes partners would have in Canada if members of our own security and intelligence establishment decide on their own volition that something needs to be sent to reporters. Now, these leakers have managed to be cast in a number of media stories as whistleblowers. I don't think the term whistleblower can apply. A whistleblower is someone, and I've been in that role myself, sees something illegal going on. I resigned my position as senior policy advisor to the federal minister of environment in 1988 because I thought what happened was illegal. A couple of years later, a federal court decision confirmed that what had happened was illegal. I took consequences. It affected my life. It wasn't clandestine. Look, what David Johnston said is these leaks, any responsible intelligence professional knows how destructive and dangerous leaks can be. They cause mistrust. Again, quoting from this report, it is a matter of urgency that all efforts be made to identify and hold the leakers responsible. Malice cannot be ruled out, close quote. I emphasize those words because foreign state interference in our electoral process is a threat to democracy. So is interference in our political process from agencies of the state. I'm old enough to remember the 2005-2006 election in which the commissioner of the RCMP, Zaccardelli, interfered in the election process. It was found by Paul Kennedy, the commissioner for RCMP Public Complaints Commission, in an investigation subsequent to that election, that Zaccardelli violated RCMP protocols in focusing attention on what turned out to be erroneous accusations against former Minister of Finance Ralph Goodale. This may seem like ancient history, but the reality of this country is that the state police interfered in the 2005-2006 election in order to cast the election in favor of the Conservatives.
Shades of James Comey.
Oh, yeah.
I keep on saying Harper was the beta test for a lot of the stuff we saw in the United States after. It keeps going. She's really good.
And we just walked by it as if it didn't matter much. So when CSIS, unnamed, anonymous leakers, say they're whistleblowers, and leak selected information that has a political impact, of course. I'm not saying they had partisan motives, but I want to underscore what David Johnston has said here. It's a matter of some urgency that all efforts be made to identify and hold the leakers responsible. And I worry, as leader of a political party, leader of the Greens, not a partisan of any other party in the House of Commons, I worry that trying to find out who did this will be cast as a political witch hunt with partisan motives. Every Canadian should care to ensure that our security and intelligence establishment be reliable, that the people who work there take their oath seriously. In order to obtain top secret security clearance to be able to look at the documents, which I've now examined, the Privy Council office and the security and intelligence establishment that conveys this designation to me had to make very sure I understood that it's an offense to release top secret information, understood the threat it would mean to Canada if documents that are held as classified and secret were released. I think we've lost track of the fact that people within CSIS did this deliberately. We don't know their motives. We don't know who they are. And they seem to think that they can be protected by their own narrative that they're whistleblowers. I don't buy it. I'd like to see it. I'd like to be absolutely certain that we know what's going on here. And as I've said in the House of Commons, and I think I'm the only member of Parliament who's spoken out in the House of Commons on this, we do kind of know that CSIS intelligence can be unreliable. Just ask Maher Arar.
Boom.
Oh, yeah.
Boom. So that was a long segment, but it was very, very important because, first of all, just talking about the work of David Johnson, talking about the difference between a whistleblower and someone who stirs up crap, or whistleblower and a leaker. Yes. And then makes the point that there's no way that they could not have known that what they were doing was illegal because she, upon taking an oath that she needed to take in order to be able to see this information, promised that there was no way that she would leak it because it would be bad.
Right.
You put those three elements together. We got questions. I've got a question. I got a shit ton. I got a metric shit ton of questions.
And what does Skippy keep saying? He keeps going back to the same, well, I'm not going to get the clearance because if I get the clearance, Justin Trudeau can put anything in front of me and say that's top secret now and now I can't talk about it. I'm like, it's not how it works. But he's relying upon us to be stupid and believe him and take him at his word. It's not that they think we're stupid. They're counting on us to be stupid. They're counting on stupidity, apathy, and ignorance. They're counting on it.
Bingo. Boom. That's exactly it. They've got it baked into the system, like they can count on it that it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And when they don't, well, then it gets a little dicey. Okay, so now we're going to move to her reporting back on what it is that she's seen. It gets good.
At this point,
You can't see it. I don't have anything. It's off the screen.
Sorry.
There we go.
That?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
At this point, this week, having gone through what was available to an opposition party leader with top secret security clearance, I can't conclude that David Johnson's conclusions were reasonable, nor can I conclude they're unreasonable, because all I got was a footnote to a document I couldn't see. So I asked the Privy Council security folks, pardonnez-moi, pardon. I asked, s'il vous plaît, on doit liser les documents eux-mêmes. C'est pas possible de rendre une conclusion sans accès aux documents officiels.
Okay, so I'm going to do some...
at this point, the door is not closed in my face.
Sorry. I'm going to do some ongoing translation there. It says, we have to see the documents themselves. There's no way you can make an assessment without actually having seen the documents. And that's what you told the Privy Council.
Of course.
Awesome. Sorry, if you could put the video back up. I'm sorry, I pressed the wrong button when I was trying to pause it.
They are reviewing my request to make the memos themselves available to members of Parliament who have top security clearance. I disagree, obviously, profoundly with other opposition party leaders who think that this would gag us to go through this process, that it limits our ability to speak on the matter. I would urge Yves-François Blanchet, Pierre Poilievre to rethink this. I think if we operate as a group together, it's better. So far, in Parliament, on the question of public inquiry, leaders of Conservatives, Bloc, NDP, and Greens, we've taken the same view at every stage. We need a public inquiry. But on this, we took different paths, and I don't want this to be partisan. I think the real one of the reasons why leaks of the kind that we've seen to the media are so destructive is that we're in a hyper-partisan environment, and in Parliament, partisan advantage and that gotcha moment and that kneecapping moment and the question of the day forever in question period around whatever the latest scandal or thing or whatever is not helpful for democracy. If we could be less partisan, it would help us fight the climate crisis. Be less partisan, it would help us buttress our democracy against multiple threats. I've mentioned the threat of foreign state-directed interference, which is the focus of David Johnson's report. But I also mentioned threats from internal actors who could disrupt democracy. But we mustn't forget the role of social media, of the platforms that promote disinformation, and those are referred to as well by David Johnson in terms of, we know the experience of Brexit in the UK, the US election where Putin disinformation assisted Trump. I mean, these are not any longer far-fetched scenarios. But we do need, as a country, to find ways to heal divisions, be less partisan, and more prepared to pull together. If we didn't see that before the whole country basically being on fire this year, we've had up till now 12 million hectares of Canada has burnt in the 2023 season, which is not yet over, compared to 1.6 million hectares last year. 1.6 million for all of last year, 12 million so far this year. This is, if we can't see that we are in a shared emergency, we have a lot more in common than in the difference. And one of the things that, again, about nonpartisanship, you might think it's impossible when you're talking about climate to be nonpartisan. But in the month of May, we had regular briefings as party leaders, and I mean including on Zoom Pierre Poilievre, and including Yves-François Blanchet, and including Jagmeet Singh and me, and members of our own parties, getting updates from the then Minister of Emergency Preparedness, Bill Blair, as to what we were seeing across the country and how we were responding. And Rick Perkins, Conservative member of Parliament from South Shore St. Margaret's, his constituency was one of the places being ravaged by wildfire. There was allyship in a way that we don't see much in Parliament at that moment. We were basically all saying, okay, what can we do to help? That's how Canadians would like to see us respond to the climate crisis. But I'd also say, I'm sure Canadians would like to know that we're prepared to say, I don't want to take some cheap shot in a highly charged political context over foreign interference.
So, great point about the partisanship. Now, when she says, because this all started off with her saying that she can't confirm or infirm the conclusions that David Johnson has, because basically she was given 2 documents, and hopefully, I believe an answer to a journalist will clear that up. To a journalist question, but I wanted to put that part in specifically, saying that specifically that she can't confirm or infirm, and I wanted to keep the thing about hyperpartisanship, because she is singling out Blanchet and Poilievre here as being unhelpful to the process, and Poilievre in particular, because exactly based on the claim that he does not want to be gagged, which is just silly.
It's a crock.
It is. Absolutely.
You want me to roll with more? You got more to roll with?
I got more. I just got to find the next little clip there.
Okay, no problem.
You keep talking. It'll just take me about 5 or 10 seconds.
I've got I've got an article here I'm just looking at from the Guardian.
Don't switch the subject though. Try to stay on this one because I'll be back in just like 5 or 10 seconds.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I thought you were going to take a few minutes. I wasn't going to switch the subject as much as mention it, but we'll come back to this later. Then there's like 3 or 4 other things I want to address, but let's just stick on this. If you're ready to roll, sir, we can hear what Ms. May has to say. Ms. May, it's Mrs. May. She's married now, isn't she?
Yes, she's married now to Jonathan Kidder, but she kept
her name. So but it would be Mrs. May, not Mrs. May, not Ms. May, correct?
I guess so. I don't know how it works. I don't know if you still say Mrs. if you've kept the maiden name.
Well, yeah, but you're married,
yes,
so
that's
that would
what
be
I mean.
the indication that you're married.
Yeah, I don't know what the protocols are. Totally forgot.
Yeah, you know what? Somebody pointed out to me not too long ago that I thought, holy crap, I never thought about that before. There's no woman on earth that has her own surname.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right? It's always the name of the father. So even if she keeps her maiden name when she gets married, it's still not even her name.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I was like, oh my, that was an earth-shattering realization. But you can make it your name, take it and make it your name. But I mean, honestly, it isn't. It's the name of your father, which is mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yep.
Ms. is always safe.
All right, I got the next one. She starts in French, so I might have to stop and do some on the go translation interpretation for you.
Notre établissement sécuritaire.
Possibilité que M. Johnson a mal rapporté les mémos auxquels vous n'avez pas accès.
Okay, now this particular journalist asked about a series of 3 questions, and the 3 questions essentially came down to, do you think that Mr. Johnson falsely reported, or did he misreport this? So, trying to ask a question whether or not he was in the bag for Trudeau somehow. But he asked it 3 different ways using a 3 different word, whether he lied, whether he misrepresented, whether he misreported. Right?
C'est possible, mais c'est pas possible pour moi de dire oui ou non.
So it's possible, but it's impossible for me to say yes or no.
Sans l'accès au document original.
Without having access to the original documents.
J'ai seulement le droit, actuellement, de lire les citations.
Currently, I only have the right to read the footnotes.
Yes, clairement.
C'est pas possible d'avoir confiance en quelque chose d'invisible.
It's not possible to have confidence in something that's invisible.
Je ne me manque pas la confiance. It's not that I don't trust David Johnson. I think he's a fine person. And I don't know that he understood that what would be released to me as a leader of an official opposition party, a member of an opposition party with top secret security clearance, would come down to a 20-page report with citations, footnotes to documents I can't read. So I want Canadians to have confidence in our elections, our institutions. I'd love to be able to confirm there's no evidence that blah, blah, blah. But I can't if all I've got is the conclusions David Johnson reached in a summary confidential annex, which points me to, in detailed footnotes, documents you can't read. I mean, the benefit of footnotes is that the curious reader of any particular piece of literature can go find the original document and read it. Never forget when I went through Bjorn Lomborg, God help us.
Va inventer ça. Il peut avoir inventé les références.
No.
So now he's going, so he could have invented the references. Did he just make the references up? That's the question.
Pas possible pour Mr. Johnson d'inventer les références.
No. It's not possible for Mr. Johnson to invent the references.
C'est les vrais documents, mais c'est les documents. Je n'ai pas l'accès aux documents originaux.
They are the real documents. I just don't have access to the original document. So basically, she got 2 documents. She got a 20-page summary, and then she got a 5-page confidential annex. And it's what David Johnson wrote, but anything that he's referred to, I guess, was not made available to her. Now, as she said previously, she's not sure whether or not when David Johnson invited everybody to come and see the documents, whether or not CSIS or CSE or whoever made the documents available said, okay, you're only going to get the summary, as opposed to getting everything that went behind the summary. But I think it is a reasonable conclusion for anyone that was listening to David Johnson that day, based on what he said, to think that people would get the opportunity to see everything, particularly since cabinet confidence was waived. Now, there's two other investigations going on as well, right? The NCIRA and NCICOP. And they have, some of them will see those documents for sure. But everybody was assuming that the opposition leaders would get to as well. So let's continue on with Ms. May here.
We'd be very clear. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm reporting on where the process stands as of now. I'm open to possibility that this is a mistake that took place between Johnson putting his pen down and me being the first person who's cleared top secret security clearance and gone to look at the documents. I hope that my colleague, Mr. Singh, when he has a look, will support the call. And perhaps before he even gets to the document process that I've been through, we will have had a change in the access to documents so that the documents that are referenced with citations are themselves available. Because if I can read the same document David Johnson read, and it's top secret, obviously don't divulge what was in it, but I can completely read a document and say, his conclusion, for instance, just picking one out at random, that there were no warnings to the prime minister, blah, blah. If that's very clear from what I'm reading, I say, well, he reached a reasonable conclusion based on the top secret security information he had. But all I have at this point is his conclusion and a footnote to a document that I can't read. Until I can read the documents, and I know they're top secret, I will never divulge what's in them. I understand the difference between his first report, which is a public document and very useful to pick up and review again, what his terms of reference were, what he concluded. But this document, as we've pointed out a couple of times, makes it very clear that the confidential annex is to allow people with top secret security clearance to review conclusions and judge whether they are warranted based on the full information contained in the annex. What I'm sharing with you today is there was not full information contained in the annex.
Boom.
There were only footnotes to documents I couldn't see. Yes, sir.
So, very clear. Now, if this was the Conservatives doing this, it would be a full-scale attack. Johnson intended to do this, and he was running interference for Trudeau, and this is how we do it, and we knew there was something sneaky all along. And good thing she was the first to see it. Because say what you want about Elizabeth May, whether you like her, whether you don't like her, whether you would vote for her, whether you wouldn't, she tells the truth.
Yeah, she's always going to tell you the truth. She's an honest person, and I have friends who work on the Hill, and will say they don't necessarily agree with her politics or her views, but they can't fault her for who she is as a person. She's a good person.
Nor
she always tells the truth.
Nor her work ethic.
Well, that's the other thing too.
She comes with receipts. She does her.
There are people on the Hill who may be in opposition to other parties, but I've had people in those parties say point blank, that's a person you don't want to come up against, because they always bring receipts. They always are prepared. John Baird actually had a great deal of respect for Elizabeth May. I know this personally. A great deal of respect for her. Because he said there's nothing phony about her. She is exactly who she is. She's an honest person. I think the only other person on the Hill who probably had a similar reputation and well-founded was the late Paul Dewar. And everybody liked Paul. Everybody liked him. Even those who were, fundamentally opposed to his ideals, his ideas, anything he put forward, they still loved him because he was a fundamentally good human being.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. I've got 2 more May clips.
I'm going to grab a coffee while you air this one.
Really interesting So I think you might like this one, Kits.
Certainly, if I understood your question well before they announce a public inquiry, I hope I'll know, am I going to get to see the documents I need to see to know what I want to say about whether the confidential annex helps me say what David Johnson, I believe, thought it would help a reasonable person say. So a reasonable person with access to the information can read it and share their conclusions, but without access to the documents, you can't. I do want to mention that one of the things the Greens have emphasized, because there's a couple of points of difference between the parties. As a party, we believe that it shouldn't be restricted to only the People's Republic of China, but should include other state actors. It should be more open-ended than one country only. And we also believe that to make this work, if it can work, it will require that all opposition parties support the choice of commissioner or commissioners. That's critical. Yes.
When you asked,
So there you have that part, Kits. I sort of blew that one a little earlier by talking about it before she said it, before I showed the clip. But she's making it very clear. Again, this is a call out specifically of Pierre Poilievre, because they do not want, they really, 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 really do not want to give their consent whatsoever to what is going on. They don't want to legitimize the process. They keep on saying they want a process, but they don't actually want to legitimize any process that would be approved by the government of Canada or the Prime Minister, because, again, well, receipts, right? So this is the final clip that I have, and it's with regard to the recommendation of having a foreign registry when it comes to election interference. There's other things that she says on the environment that are really good, because she has addressed the wildfires, and this some people asked her, but I want to save those for another episode where we talk about this particular thing. So this will be the last clip. So I don't want you to think that she completely ignored the wildfire episode during this. This presser wasn't for that purpose, but journalists did ask questions and she did answer. I'm just not highlighting them here on this today. All right.
Ways in which Zaccardelli violated normal RCMP protocols on how you handle telling the public when you've opened an investigation into a named individual.
much of a priority is the foreign agent registry for your party?
I'll let Jonathan answer that too. Because that's one there's a party answer that we can answer. I think it's a significant priority. But do you want to speak to the foreign agent registry? Or anything else, actually, because you've been waiting.
No, it's fine. Yeah, we don't want to keep you for too long. I think this is something that could be useful, but we also have to remember that other countries, such as Russia, for example, or China, are using foreign registries to clamp down on civil society and organizations that defend human rights or environmental organizations. So this is something that needs to be navigated in a very cautious way.
Yeah, we're Jonathan, having had most of his life experience in working overseas, and particularly in the area of human rights, is well aware of the ways in which we have to be careful as Canadians. And one of the things that comes out in David Johnson's report, which I want to emphasize again, is when we talk about foreign agent registries and we get focused on one country, and this is something certainly that colleagues in Parliament like Jenny Kwan have mentioned. I mean, we don't want to be contributing to stigmatization of certain groups within our country, of a diaspora from China, or for that matter, from Russia. We have to actually pay attention to what's a foreign state intervention in our system and what runs the risk of increasing a kind of unformed conspiracy theory, populist atmosphere that increases, to be blunt, racism. We really have to be careful in how we look at all of these issues to protect Canadian values, protect the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, but not be naive about the fact, and David Johnson's report doesn't sugarcoat it at all, that there are foreign state powers interested in Canada, and they would like to influence our politics. They don't necessarily support one party or another, but David Johnson's report finds many deficiencies in how intelligence reports are communicated, essentially up the food chain, and certainly having sat through the debates in Parliament. They're not really debates, but the shouting matches over foreign interference often come down to an MP standing up on one side of the house saying, it's not possible that blah, blah, blah was being found by some intelligence report. And it was not possible that wouldn't have ended up on the Prime Minister's desk. Well, it's very clear from my knowledge of how things work around Ottawa, but also David Johnson's conclusions on this. It's totally plausible to me that things like that don't end up on the Prime Minister's desk unless they're really a lot clearer than what we think they were. I said, I want to look at those documents so I know for sure. But
there you go. I wanted to include that part specifically for two reasons. One, to see Jonathan Pedneau speak, because he's the co-leader of the party and we don't see him all that often. Remember that his background was working on international human rights stuff all over. He comes with a very serious background. And this is important to realize, like this one, because the Conservatives are going, why don't you have a foreign registry? Why don't you have? Well, it's not that simple. You have to design that in a specific way to make sure that we don't have people being targeted, like when Trump said China virus, and then all of a sudden, boom, hate crimes against, right? The AIIP community just went. So,
well, it's because she's an intelligent individual who wouldn't gin up anybody by doing that. She's an intelligent, articulate, empathetic individual.
She's also an Anglican minister, so she has certain ethics.
Yeah.
Right.
She's a smart lady.
Tabby T here. This is how politics should sound: articulate, powerful, and considerate.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And we had these cups. Why haven't we seen this? This is why we do this. This is why I watch this. I was, oh, wait a minute. Like that's the reason why it hasn't happened yet is because security clearances were waiting. Oh, and Elizabeth May's delivering. I need to listen to this because I knew immediately that is something that we should listen to, that I should bring to you as soon as I heard it, because of the quality of the person, the quality of the work that she does, and the fact that, you know, Elizabeth May has the same benefit that Gilles Duceppe had back in the day. You might not have agreed with separatism for Quebec, but you knew that if Gilles Duceppe was talking about anything other than Quebec sovereignty, he was telling you the damn truth because he had no reason to lie.
Exactly.
It didn't matter to him one way or another.
No.
So Elizabeth May is the same way. Like, she wants a more collaborative form of politics, and the whole
I think
reason,
we all do.
Yes, but the whole reason that she is who she is, and she's as popular as she is, and that she keeps on getting voted in, and she keeps on getting awards from her colleagues as being, like, you know, the best parliamentarian or most researched or most, you know, most competent or whatever, is because she does that. You know that if she's talking on a subject, she did her research.
Oh, yes.
She's bringing receipts. She's not going to punch you in the kidneys once you've turned your back and started walking away.
It's not who she is. She won't berate you if you ask her a question that we all know the answer to. Right. And just say, well, who did it? Who did it? Who did it?
Yes,
who did it?
Only because you didn't write down the names of all the people who did the studies before asking the question.
Well, and reporters are the ones asking the questions. Why is he anyway?
Well, it's a Ron DeSantis imposed dominance thing, right?
That's exactly what it is.
It was the thing he did at the debate, like, raise your hands if you would support Trump. I don't want to. Why don't we talking about this? But I'm like this. Raise your hands if you think that Mike Pence did the right thing. Well, of course he did the right thing, but it's like, you know, could you answer this question? Well, who says who? Says who? It's like, I mean, he just. And then he would not, while she was talking, like, he just like interrupt again. Who?
Yeah.
Put you on the back foot, push you. Huh? Oh, you're not stable now, huh? Another push. Huh? Oh,
who said it?
You really suck at your job, eh? Huh?
Who said it? Who said it?
Exactly, but
he doesn't do that to men, though. He only does that to women.
Well, his first time he did. He tried that with David Aiken, remember?
It didn't work.
First time he tried. It
Yeah.
didn't work, but he tried it.
Yeah, he tried it. Now he only does it to women.
Now he only does it to women.
And after that last incident, I think every woman that asks, every female presenting person who asks him a question in the future will have all the receipts, so he can't pull that crap ever again.
Yep. Oh yeah, now they know.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. You want to play this game this way? Fine.
We'll play too. Hell hath no fury, right?
Hey, there's a lot of people out there, right? It's like, hey, you want to set the rules that way? Fine, I will give you exactly what you've asked for. Nothing more, nothing less, but precisely to the letter, pedantically, what you've asked for.
Boy, are you going to regret that.
That's me personally, if you get me in that mode, ooh, you are in trouble.
Yes.
I remember at work one day, I was in a new job, and there was somebody in another division that did not have direct control over me or authority over me who really wanted it. So in my first 2 days on the job, this invites me in. It's my first management job. Like this, and starts to have a meeting with me, and it's talking to me like, well, we do this over here. And it's like, oh, well, that's really nice. My philosophy is that I wouldn't. So I kept pushing back politely. But after that meeting, it was very clear. It's like, okay, you want to have some authority over me, and in the hierarchical structure of the organization, you don't. So I know that I am 20 something years younger than you, but I see what's going on here in this meeting. Oh, well, you're young and you're new here, and tap, 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 and pat, 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 right? Like this, I know that because that happens to women a lot. And I read and I listen to women speak. So I recognize this situation. And it's like, but beforehand, I had already talked to the two people at my level. And we had already made an arrangement about how we were going to share information and stuff like that. So I said, no, we already got that planned. Don't worry about that. So he says, well, I'd like to be CC'd on what you do. So I said, okay, fine. Well, somewhere in my post-secondary career, between going to a university at which I decided after 1 month I hated the program and left, and going to dance school, I took a professional trade college course in medical office assistance, which essentially I'm a medical secretary trained, which means I can type from 60 to 100 words a minute. And since I was a manager, and since I responded to all my emails same day or next day, and since it really only takes me about 1/10 of a second to add his name on CC, I literally CC'd him on literally everything I was doing. Everything I was doing, literally. After about 3 days, okay, that's enough emails. Thank you. but I gave you exactly what you wanted. Don't come for the queen.
No, don't.
It took 3 days for him to yell uncle, because I responded to all my emails and I typed really fast. So he got a lot of them. Oh, man. Mr. Grizzly. Do you have anything else for us today, or do we have a show?
Two hits, actually. One on Jordan Peterson.
Yes.
Which, he was raging about...
Hold on. I need...
You're going to get the hat? Okay. There you go. All right.
Okay.
It's Christmas time. Raging about how... And Brian Lilly did the same thing. His freedom of expression was taken away from him. No, it was not. You are bound by a code of conduct as a physician. And when you break that code of conduct, you are bound by the rules set forth in it, and you have to go and get retrained. He lost in court after he tried to dodge a College of Psychologists requirement that he take social media training to keep his license. While he tried to frame this as being about his politics, the actual complaints tell a different story. Here's the latest from Rachel Gilmore. Have a look at this.
Ooh.
Jordan Peterson just lost in court after he tried to get a judge to overturn the College of Psychologists' decision that he either has to take social media classes or lose his license to practice. And now he has to pay the college $25,000 for their trouble. Here's what happened. Earlier this year, Jordan Peterson made a huge stink about this, framing it as social media re-education and implying it was mainly because of his political views. Except that wasn't true. I actually looked through the documents Peterson posted himself to Twitter that contained a chunk of the complaints. This made him upset, because I showed that he, a licensed psychologist who could in theory work with people who have, say, depression, tweeted stuff like jokes about people unaliving themselves. Peterson, a licensed psychologist who could in theory work with people with eating disorders, shared clinical studies in an attempt to argue overweight people aren't attractive. So that, along with a lot of other stuff, concerned the College of Psychologists, which has a mandate to regulate the profession of psychology in the public interest. It concluded Peterson's behavior raised a, quote, moderate risk of harm to the public and asked him to take some social media classes to keep his license. A takeaway the judge agreed was reasonable, especially in light of the fact that Peterson has the title clinical psychologist in his Twitter bio, even though he decided on his own to stop practicing with patients in 2017. And the judge decided the social media training had a minimal impact on Peterson's freedom of expression. So now Jordan has to take social media classes if he wants to keep identifying as a licensed psychologist. And he says he's going to broadcast those social media classes online. So that'll be interesting. What do you think of all this?
Well, Jordan, you stepped in it again.
Honk, honk. Hey,
once again.
But and he also promised that he would broadcast the proceedings. But it seems that the proceedings are already. No, I think the proceedings are already public. We thought that it was going to be completely confidential, and then we went on their website and we found that out. Remember?
That's right.
So he's not going to be doing anything. It looks like it's the college that's going to be making them public, and it seems that they have absolutely no qualms whatsoever. You want to make this public? Sure, come take a look.
Let's go for it.
Let's show everybody how awful you are. But yeah, and then of course Brian Lilly came running to the rescue.
Oh, yes, he did.
Peter Batter, let's get at her. Oh, my God, this is so terrible. It's a friend. I guess it's like, no, the college has no place. Yeah, actually, it is the college's place to do that. It's exactly the college's place to do that. It's like
I kind of went there. I went there. I was mad, so I responded. Here's Brian Lilly. If Jordan Peterson's freedom of expression is under attack, then so is yours. The difference is he can afford the fight and you likely can't. Here's why you should be worried about this court ruling. Read, watch, and retweet.
No.
Brah. He's in violation of his license to practice. The hell is wrong with you? Get the fuck out of here with that. You're willfully, eagerly, happily lying. He, like any licensed professional, has to operate within the code of conduct. He broke the code. Why do you lie so much? Oh, man, I was mad when I read that.
Well, yeah. Because, I mean, it's a complete... But this is this whole thing, right? They seem to live in this reality. It's like, the federal government wants to impose a carbon... Federal government has no right to do that. Well, yeah, it's written in this book, and we have like 150-something years of legal precedent. It's like, federal government has... Okay, take it to court. Alberta court says we won. It's a split decision. Yay! Let's take it to the Supreme Court. Oh, we lost. It's like, yeah, like we told you would. Because it is very clear that the federal government has the right to tax something nationally. They taxed all goods and services at one point, and it was a conservative who did it.
Yes, Brian Mulroney.
So if you can tax all goods and services, clearly you can tax carbon. And then it wasn't even a tax. They did it as a regulatory fee, which government can definitely do regulatory fees.
And let's not forget who came up with the idea for that in the beginning.
Conservatives.
Stephen Harper. Greenhouse gas emissions. And it was going to be $65 per ton.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and there was no rebate for you or I.
Yeah. I know. They love it until somebody else actually comes. Like, they're going to, as soon as TMX is going to be built and that first, shipment of whatever is going through it is going to get on a boat and go somewhere else, they're going to be screaming about that. No, not that way. It's like, wait a minute. Like, we are pumping gas and we are shipping it off. Isn't this what you wanted? Yeah, but a liberal did it.
It's only okay if I do it. If you do it,
We
it's
were
wrong.
supposed to promise to do it and not get it done for decades so we could keep fundraising on it. We were liberal wasn't supposed to. We never thought that a liberal was actually going to do it. What are we going to raise money off now?
More rage farming. Well, sticking with David or Jordan Peterson. Here's a quote from. Here's a tweet from David Parker yesterday. I'm going to read this.
That fuck. Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
David Parker, the guy who's basically running the UCP from the shadows. Legal system in this country has been captured by radical left-wing extremists who use it to impose their morality on the rest of the world.
Okay, replace
They must
that
be
with
stopped.
right. Replace that with right instead of left, and you've got the exact same thing as it applies to David Parker.
Mhm.
That's how you know these tweets are bullshit. But you
They
can
must
just
be
replace the
stopped.
words.
We must remove these ideologues from all of our institutions democratically. What happened to Jordan Peterson today shows that the Ontario legal system no longer respects freedom of expression. It is a horrible day for freedom. Is it a horrible day for Canada? The only way this can be stopped is if regular people take up the responsibility of getting involved. That means showing up and, you know what, I'm not going to read the rest of that because I was pissed off. But I will show you my response to it. And I think you're gonna like it because, you know, it was very apropos and very much in the vein of how I respond to people who blatantly lie. Whoops, that's the wrong one. No, hang on a second here. I showed the wrong tab. Give me a sec. It happens. It happens. There we go. That's it. Okay. This is my response. Do you know anything about civics? Do you know anything about governing licensing bodies? No. No, you don't. You showed the world your ignorance. Sit down. I was pretty mad about that at the time. So, you know.
That was in all caps.
Yeah, I was yelling. I was mad. I was mad because they're lying. They are lying, and nobody is holding them to task. Like, what was one of the things you were taught as a child? Don't lie.
Uh-huh.
Don't lie. You don't lie ever. You don't lie ever. And they just continue to do it and continue to get away with it. And I can't handle it anymore, man. I'm losing my shit over this. Yeah. We need to hold these liars to task. Every time they lie, we need somebody like Daniel Dale to keep a running tab and report back that says, no, that was a lie. No, that was a lie. That was a lie. Here are the truths. Because I can't take it anymore. One of two things is going to happen. I'm going to have to shut down for a few days, or I will go postal. No, the postal option is not. I don't want to do that.
No, I understand that. I'm just. Yeah, we have a quote here. It's like, if you think that you have a right to free speech in Canada, you're delusional, tweeted Peterson on Wednesday, according to the Western Standard. So unfortunately,
we don't have free speech,
yeah,
so you know,
exactly.
He's technically right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Kermit the Peterson, as has the Western Standard and all the usual suspects, keep on pretending to be confused that U.S. freedom of speech exists here. We have freedom of expression, and it means you can run your mouth any way you damn please without any consequences. Again. Right, it's that I want to go look at my property. Everything's ablaze. Well, I want to go do that now. Please don't do that. You'll put yourself and everybody else in danger. And
we'll have to come and rescue you, which puts us in danger.
Yeah, I want me. I wasn't allowed to tell people they should unalive themselves as a clinical psychologist by my college, who gives me my license. They have no authority over me. Yeah, they actually do. they actually, they literally do have authority over you. It's like, they have to guarantee my right to freedom. No, they don't actually have to guarantee your right to freedom of expression. No, they don't. Their goal is to make sure that the profession maintains a minimum level of respect for the benefit of all the professionals, including you, even though you're too blind or arrogant to see it at the moment. But it's like, if you don't let me to say anything I want, the way I want, how I want, when I want, you're ruining my freedom of... No. You never had that. Because if you did have that, you would be able to yell fire in a crowded theater, and nothing bad would happen to you.
Exactly.
We all know. We've all always known that free speech is not absolute. So these worlds that they're creating for themselves, like this, a Canada in which a federal government having regulatory power is unconstitutional, a world in which the federal government saying, yes, there's an electric grid, but we're a big country, so it's national. So we'll take care of the coordinating function across provinces. No. Approving drugs. You can't approve that vaccine like this. There hasn't been enough research for my personal liking. It's
Well, let's change the old analogy of you can't yell fire in a theater, because that's not really a thing anymore, right? Because it's all digital projection. And back in the day, the reason they used that one was because film stock was highly flammable.
yes.
Highly flammable.
Yes.
I think a better one today is you can't yell bomb in an airport.
There you go.
Watch what happens if you do. But I have free speech. Guess what, my friend?
Yeah, and you exercised your free speech and you yelled bomb. And now here come the consequences.
Here come the consequences.
It's like, and I don't understand how people don't understand that all speech has consequences. I walk down the street like this. I see a stranger like was walking by. I look them straight in the eyes. I smile. I go, hey, hello. Like this, and I see a smile come back. That was a consequence.
Yeah.
It was
Not
a
all
good one.
consequences are bad. That's right.
But it was a consequence. I made a conscious decision to perform a certain act. I performed it willingly and willfully.
Yeah.
Yes. And then some person had a response. That was a consequence. The response was a smile. I felt good afterwards. Hopefully he did too. That was a consequence. You can't yell vaccine in a pandemic.
That's a good one, PNC. That's a good one. That's a really good. I like that one. I like that one. We're going to use that.
50 Beaver points. 50 Beaver points.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, yes, for the House of PNC Bio. Yes.
I like that.
I love that.
Good one.
Oh, man.
I love how they always are yelling, free speech, free speech, free speech. Do you know what country you're in? Do you know? Do you care? I get that you're doing this to gin up your American supporters, but maybe, as a Canadian living in Canada, you should speak in Canadian terms, because it was those same rules and regulations that got you into trouble in the first place. You violated the governing body's code of conduct with your freedom of expression.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, you're in hot water.
Mm-hmm.
You can continue to do those things, but you will not be able to call yourself a licensed psychologist. You have to remove that.
Literally the extent of the punishment.
That's it. You want to keep that in your name? Well, they're not censoring him. They're not taking anything away from him, but that if he doesn't follow along by the rules set out by the governing body.
Right. Now he's saying
it's like let's explain it in a simple matter. In a hockey fight, you get a 5-minute penalty because you violated the rules. I don't know how much more base to make it. You broke the rules, you pay the price.
Yeah.
Don't do the crime if you can't do the time.
And if you can't do the time, don't do the crime, because nobody around here wants to hear you whine.
Pretty much, yeah.
One last one on Kermit the Peterson here, because Laurie Goldstein, of course, also rushed in. Now,
of course he did.
You always have to distinguish, though, between Goldstein and Wormington and Lily, because Lily will always rush in all the time, no matter what. Goldstein sometimes holds back. Wormington sometimes holds back. Kinsella sometimes holds back. But Lily, never. Lily's always full in. But here we have Goldstein. He decided to be one of the usual suspects. Our Friday Sun Media editorial. Jordan Peterson targeted it for, quote, wrong think. Wrong think, okay?
1984.
Exactly.
He's quoting George Orwell.
Obviously, it's going to have a chilling effect on the profession because, unlike other psychologists, Peterson doesn't need the approval of his regulatory body to earn a living. He needs the approval of his regulatory body to earn a living as a clinical psychologist, though. He does. He does.
Yeah.
But if he would rather make his living as a rage prostitute, rather than a clinical psychologist, then he'll shut up. He won't comply with the media training, whatnot. And if he
Stop
doesn't think
resisting.
that there's more money in it for him in being a martyr than actually maintaining his license, which he might believe that since he hasn't seen anybody since 2017, so he's not making his money off that clearly, then he will take those couple of moments to do the Pierre the Pigeon stride across the chessboard that was flipped and go. I was like, I'm so much important and much more better than you. So, and then he'll go on the rest of his life. He'll have decided charted the course for the rest of his life, which is I have to keep on saying more and more outrageous things. And when someone like Vivek Ramaswamy comes out and says, hey, you might be in jail in a couple of months, so I'm just going to come up and just basically steal your entire shtick in case you go to jail, then people can say, hey, I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, dude, you know where this path leads. You're a clinical psychologist. You should be able to see the road that you're on.
He can see it. He just wants to gaslight everybody else into thinking something else.
Yeah,
and
well,
it seems to be working amongst his followers and people who actually listen and read Brian Lilly.
yeah, but we're seeing south of us where gaslighting eventually you run out of gas and the light goes out. Or eventually you run out of tricks and someone, a cuter, younger model, comes along and does your act a little better than you do. Throws in a couple of verses of Eminem on the stage while they're doing it. Yeah. There's always, listen, there's no honor. There was a time where there was honor among thieves, but now apparently it seems that there are not. Putin and Prigozhin, for example. So,
Yeah,
just saying, the thieves are taking each other out.
Oh, yeah.
So there is no honor now. So, yeah. Hey, Jordan, my pal, my friend. If you want to severely limit your career options being a rage whore, rage prostitute, and you think that you can keep on escalating and being more and more and more outrageous because that's what you need to do, because eventually the old material gets old and people want a new act, and you have to distinguish yourself by because you're only as good as your last hit, right? So yeah, you're going to have a increasingly shrinking audience if people listening to you shriek ever louder and louder into what will become a wind tunnel. And you will slip into irrelevance if something else doesn't get you first, because you become way depressed that no matter how much fentanyl you're pumping into the political discourse, you're just not getting your high. All right, Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir. I have one graphic to show you, and then we can wrap this puppy up and put a bow on it. This is an interesting graphic. I'm going to put it on the screen. I'll leave it for a few seconds, then read it, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Okay.
Return to office orders look like a way for rich, work-obsessed CEOs to grab power back from employees. Wow. I didn't think anybody had the cojones to actually say that out loud in a medium similar to this format. I was shocked when I saw that headline. I don't know what I just saw the screen grab, so I don't know where it was published, but I can look up the Hassan Chowdhury and who's the other name? Sarah Jackson, I think. I can look those up and find out where that story is from, because I'd like to read the entire story, to be honest with you.
Yeah, same here.
Because, wow, that looks interesting. Somebody who's really got something to say about it.
All right, kids. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Podcast. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please let your peeps know about us. And because democracy is something that you do, yeah, you need to write some letters. And I actually, you asked me yesterday if I had listened to the Dean Blundell show on which Spenny and Dave Wallace were on, and I listened to it last night. Very, very good, very good. And David Wallace went off at one point, and there's a whole section in there that I marked the time, and I wish I would have like queued it up for this show, but I'll maybe on Monday, I think, because I would just, for democracy, something you do, I just want to press play on that and let it run.
I know what you're talking about.
Right? You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because he went in there. He made a speech like this with the passion that it's like, go.
Mhm.
Yes, you do it. So, yeah, you got to get in there. So we'll put it in there. But yeah, as we keep on saying, right, we're at a stage now where these people are so determined that you have to get your body involved.
Yeah.
You got to get your body involved. You got to protest for something. You got to show up at an MP's office or a school trustee's office. You got to demand a meeting. You've got to, if you have the ability, particularly if you're older and you're maybe a little retired and you got some free time, run for something.
Yeah.
Run for something. Because a school board, library board, whatever,
Something.
just run for something because you know
Get
they
in
are.
there.
You know they are. If you really like this podcast, you can find us on the Crier Media Network as well as all Beaver Grizzly friendly platforms. And August 29th is coming. So if you happen to still be listening to us on Stitcher, it becomes a dead app on August 29th. So please prepare your migration because we don't want to miss you.
No.
We don't want to miss you. We like you. We like you very, 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 very much. Stars and reviews are greatly appreciated. If you happen to be listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please find where you can leave a review. We will not tell you at all how many to leave in terms of stars. But if you like a full mittful as a number, we like that too. We'd love to hear from you. Reach us on our Facebook at True North Eager Beaver, our Twitter feed at True Eager, and by email at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And if you want to make sure that you do not miss a single episode whatsoever, well then, thanks to the Ray Girl, you don't have to. Because you can subscribe to us via our pod page. That's podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And as soon as we have something fresh off the bandwidth, I just added a couple syllables in there, we'll come right to you. And why not, since you're subscribing to stuff, subscribe to our True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube channel. Make like Kit Elaine and get down and smash with those buttons. We've got 3 buttons for you. 3. We've got a like. We've got a share, because again, sharing is caring. And we've got a subscribe.
And that's important.
So if you've liked and shared, well then
please subscribe.
Make a commitment. Stick around. We can't do this without your kind and generous support. So if you feel that we've done a particularly good show, if you're watching, you can scan the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head right there. Or if you are listening, please use those wonderful digits on those wonderful hands, you wonderful people, or use your wonderful voice to get that prompt to bring you to coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And that's where you can make your donation to the True North Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund. Very, 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 very good cause for you to donate to. You just,
well, we'll be putting it to use tomorrow.
Just for a cup of coffee a day, you can sponsor a beaver and a grizzly.
A mocha venti latte or something, because those are expensive.
Yes. 5 days a week, we will come into your home and we will send you a personal letter and give you a couple updates of how we're doing and how your
coffee talk,
how your generous contribution helped improve our lives. So just give today.
You too can save the life.
We
of
really
a
need
grizzly and a beaver.
some slow piano music in the back when we do that. Every time you donate to Queen Beaver, an angel gets his wings. I decided to stick with the Christmas theme. From the Beaver Lodge, this is your eager beaver saying, until next time, dear kids, it could be a tough world out there. So be kind to and gentle with yourself. I wish I knew we had that harp effect. I would have used it way earlier.
I had to dig it up.
It's so perfect.
Well, there's also this.
Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom for us?
Yeah. This. Welcome to the place where everyone knows your name, where everyone's your friend, where good times are had by all. Sit back, relax, pour yourself a beverage and enjoy our company. I know we'll certainly enjoy yours. Welcome to the True North Eager Beaver Pubcast. Once a month, we gather at the Lieutenant's Pump at 361 Elgin Street in downtown Ottawa, Canada's capital city, bringing you joy and happiness all day long.
Podcast.
How's that for words of wisdom?
There we go. Mr. Grizzly, roll them credits. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum. And the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Mr. Grizzly, since tomorrow is podcast day, yay, and we are heading into Pride weekend, yay. Mr. Grizzly, would you put something up? Because, of course, right here we have the lovely RuPaul. As you could tell, very, very, very tall. Mm-hmm. RuPaul made me think of Donald Trump. In lifts and hair, he might be 6'3". Just like RuPaul is 7 feet when you add hair and heels. And you never want to mess with a 7-foot drag queen.
Good Lord, no. Oh, hey, wait, here's something.
Look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. Look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh.
Well, now I love Nickelback.
Right?
Honk, honk. Have a great
Alrighty.
weekend.
See you tomorrow.